G'day, you probably know what the F1 drivers drive on track, but what do they drive at home? In this video, you're going to find out. Can you stop that? First up, let me start with Valtteri Bottas. He has a Mercedes AMG GT Black Series. He got this in August 2021. This is the car with the Mercedes stars on it, and there is one red star in amongst the lot, and of course that is to celebrate the life of Niki Lauda. Valtteri lives in Monaco, which is some 4 hours away from the Monza track, and so for the Italian Grand Prix, Valtteri has driven his car, I'm pretty sure, on 2 occasions. I've seen him getting out of it in the car park. What else does he have? An Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Those two I can definitely confirm, and then there are some rumours that he has an AMG 1. This is a stunning vehicle worth about $2.7 million US. David Coulthard has one, as does Mark Wahlberg. As Lewis Hamilton bought an AMG 1, he's bought 2. One for him and one for his father. And what would it typically cost to insure a vehicle of this value? Around $30,000 to $45,000 a year. Lewis, I don't think I've ever seen Lewis drive to the track. He always has his trainer, in the old days it was Angela Cullen, or his security people drive the car. And in fact, he's been quoted as saying he really doesn't like driving that much on public roads. Now, when I say he doesn't drive to the track, he does ride to the track occasionally on this, a magnificent Agusta Brutal 800 RR LH44. I've shot him at least twice arriving with this bike, once in Monaco and also in Austria, where he actually lit up the back tyres for the crowd at one point. Other cars in his stable, a Mercedes smart car. He has an AMG EQS and EQC, and it's also rumoured to have a 67 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 and a Ferrari LaFerrari. That is quite a collection, but for a man that lives and breathes motorsport, you'd expect perhaps nothing less. Shall we go to one of the McLaren drivers? Yes, which one? Piastri, yes, Oscar Piastri. McLaren Artura in red. He received it from McLaren shortly after he joined the team. Is it a gift or does he own it? I don't know. Perhaps you might know, and if so, comments below, please. Just briefly, I often see Oscar Piastri with a suction mount on his windscreen when he drives into the track, and he has his phone mounted using the quad lock system on that suction mount. This is my quad lock case, and it uses a dual-stage locking system for a stronger, secure lock-on. The case also comes mag compatible and can be used with any of the mag heads for a smoother, easier lock-on. The thing I love about this are all the add-ons that fit on the back of this case, whether that be a car, boat, motorbike, or even just walking around. Another product I find extremely handy is the new suction base. This allows you to use a variety of Quadlock 360 products to mount your phone or even your camera on anything, which for someone like me, traveling the world, is pretty important. Another thing I love, a wallet that fits on the back, comes off easily, goes on easily. If you're interested in finding out more, there's a link in the description below. Click on that or head to quadlockcase.net. Next up is Daniel Ricciardo. Well, I've photographed him on a number of occasions arriving at the Silverstone circuit in his McLaren 720S, a beautiful soft top, and back in Australia he owns a Porsche GT3. Now this car I used to race against in certain Targa events. It was owned by a prominent Perth lawyer before he sold it to Daniel. And what else does Daniel have? A Hilux Ute. Well, for those of you in the US, it's probably a truck. And he doesn't just keep that for the farm. I have seen him driving it on the freeway in Perth. Does his teammate own a car? And I should say there is one driver in this lot of 20 that does not have a private car. Hang around to find out who that is, but it is not Yuki Tsunoda, because he indeed drives his Honda NSX to a couple of races. Here he is arriving in Monza. Of course, Yuki is sponsored by Honda, so it comes as no surprise that he is driving one. Zhou Guanyu lives in the UK and drives a green Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Now this is the souped up version of the Stelvio, and it's a car that he and his teammate Valtteri Bottas are often seen arriving in at the tracks. I'm going through these drivers in no particular order, and next on my list is Esteban Ocon. I did see a report that he owned an AMG GTR and a Merc 63 Edition 1. I couldn't confirm those. What I can confirm is he does own 2 Alpine A110s. And once again, driving for Alpine, you'd expect him to be driving the company car. Nico Hülkenberg, I can tell you, has an electric smart car, and these are great for inner city driving, obviously. I've also spotted him driving a tractor, well, a very small one, with his daughter with him, and he does have a magnificent Pagani. the Pagani Huayra. It's 800 horsepower, does 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds, and is a very sexy looking car. And I remember going back 2 years ago now in Austin, I pulled up at a fuel station in South Congress to see about 7 or 8 of these Paganis lining up to buy fuel. And I must admit I'd not seen one in person before, and it was an absolutely stunning sight to see. There is another driver in this group of 20 who says that is his dream car. I'll come to that in just a moment. Next up, Williams driver Alex Albon. I had a look at this article here, and I can tell you right now that he doesn't own any of those cars. In fact, owns 2 luxury German cars, but is rarely seen driving them. Let's jump to a Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz, who only recently got his first Ferrari. It was a Ferrari 812 Competizione. He was previously driving a VW GTI that his parents bought him when he was 18. So that is a fair step up. And what of his teammate? Well, his teammate Charles Leclerc is often seen arriving at certain races in his black 488 Pista with the 488P number plates. It's all over the internet when he heads out in Monaco. Lots of videos posted, and he's not shy about the fact either. He's even got his number 16 on the car. And what is this car worth? Upwards of $300,000 US. But Charles also added a rare Ferrari 812 Competizione Aperta recently. There are only 589 others in existence. He was spotted outside the Monaco casino in this 6.5 litre V12, which is worth around £560,000. That's the price for a standard model, and that's one of the most expensive Ferraris on offer. But Charles would definitely have been customised, so it will be worth well north of that figure. World champion Max Verstappen has quite a stable of cars, if this report is to be believed. A Renault Clio, a gift from his mum and dad. A Renault RS01 worth around 400 grand. That was his first purchase. A Porsche 911 GT3 RS. 4 Aston Martins, a DB11, the road-approved version of James Bond's car in the film Spectre. It's worth a couple of $100,000 and is fit with orange stitching, a nod to his home country. He also has a 2018 Vantage and a DBS Superleggera. But his crown jewel in the Aston Martin Red Bull collaboration is the Valkyrie hypercar. $2.7 million will get you one of those. Any more in his stable? Yeah, he's got a horse. A Ferrari, to be exact. This is a 488 Pista like Charles. A Ferrari Monza SP2. Where does he park these things? Oh, and he was also gifted a Honda NSX Type S by Honda. And for those of you new to the sport and didn't realise that Max Verstappen, when he came into the sport at the age of 17, didn't even have a driver's licence. He scored that on his 18th birthday. Kevin Magnussen, I can only find one associated with the Danish driver, and that is a Land Rover Discovery. They're pretty handy cars here where I live in Western Australia. And not too far from my house here in Lancelin are some magnificent sand dunes, and going back a number of years, I actually set, with a number of other people, a world record for the most number of cars in an off-road convoy. I managed to round up 449 people with their cars to come out to the dunes. Many of them would have been Land Rover Discoveries. And this is what it looked like when everyone parked up for the end of event Guinness World Record photo. I can tell you there were no Ferraris out there that day, but Lance Stroll has a number of them. Apparently a 63 Ferrari 250 GTO, a 58 Ferrari 250 Testarossa, and a 1967 Ferrari 330 P4. On top of that, a 96 McLaren F1 and a Ford GT. His family used to own a Ferrari dealership in Canada. One of the most remarkable cars owned by an F1 driver would have to be this McLaren Elva, and it belongs to Fernando Alonso. He also owns a LaFerrari and, as you can probably imagine, an Aston Martin. Which one? It is the DBX. And last year, Fernando took delivery of this Sunreef Power Echo catamaran. In Australia, it's interesting with cars, if you buy a car and sell it at a profit, there's typically not capital gains involved because the tax office doesn't honestly think of cars as appreciating assets. Typically, when you buy a car, it goes down in value. But when you're talking about cars of this level here, Porsche GT3s, McLaren Elvas and the like, those, as they become increasingly scarcer, tend to rise in value and become pretty good investments. Lando Norris recently sold one of his cars, a 72 Fiat 500. He put it up to auction. That was the first car he bought with his own money. And like Lando, it portrays a lot of character. Also in the stable of Lando cars, a McLaren GT that he drives to the track. And on top of that, he has a 765 LT Spider worth about double what the GT is worth. Oh, and a Lamborghini Miura. And Lando was the driver I alluded to earlier that said his dream car was a Pagani Zonda. Pierre Gasly's private cars? I found one report that listed an Aston Martin DBS Superleggera, an Aston Martin Vantage, an NC1 Honda NSX, a Porsche 911, and a McLaren 720S. I'm not sure that's 100% correct. Only 3 drivers left in this list of 20, and one of them does not own a car. Shall I tell you now? Logan Sargent lives in London, doesn't need a car. Sergio Perez, on the other hand, loves them. Look at his collection, a Honda Civic Type R, a Bugatti $3 million car there. Apparently the services are about $25,000 to $30,000 each time. McLaren 720S worth about $1 million, a Mercedes AMG just shy of $800,000, a Porsche Panamera, a 4-seater luxury sedan, retails for around $300,000, and a BMW X7 that comes with a price tag of a couple of $100,000. And that leaves just one driver, George Russell. And I have him down as owning an AMG C63S. And this is a car that George will roll up to at the track in a lot around the world. Mercedes provide those cars to their drivers in the different cities, as it's great advertising for them to be seen rolling up in those cars at various tracks around the world. And finally, let me share with you what I think is one of the best looking cars I've ever seen in the driver's car park. It's not actually owned by a driver, it's owned by a team principal, well, a CEO of a company, and that's Zach Brown from McLaren. Twice I've seen him roll up in his very own McLaren Speedtail. This is a one-off supercar valued at over $2 million. It's a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 hybrid, boasts 1,000 brake horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 2.5 seconds, and top speed, it says 250 miles per hour, which is F1 speeds. If you've enjoyed this video, please could you hit the like button, and if you love my F1 photos, go to kimellman.com where you can order my Best of 2023 photo book, hardcover, hard pages, stunning images delivered almost every country in the world. And for a whole host of extra merchandise and information and content, there you go. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. Alex Albon doesn't need one. Lives in London, not Alex Albon.